Somebody call a doctor.
I want a bigger logo. You can't handle a bigger logo.
G'day, this is the Dr. Branding Podcast. I'm your branding Dr. Frank. The surgery is open once again. Let's answer our next patient's question. But, before we do, just want to acknowledge I've been away for a couple of weeks. Had some priorities. One being a family holiday. So the surgery was closed for a week. And then the week prior to that, of me not being here for the Dr. Branding Podcast, we had some urgent patients to attend to. My clients. So putting clients first, doing what it is I do best with branding to help them do better branding, reach their customers better with an effective brand strategy, brand identity, all those good things, and a bit of packaging in between there too. So, sorry for being away. We're back into the swing of things. We're into episode 21, I think this one is. So let's answer today's question. It comes from Brett in Australia, and Brett asks a pretty hard one, I think. Can a brand really be ethical and stand for something more than profit? That's a big question, Brett. But let's try and unpack it. It's going to be probably more subjective than really solving a brand problem here. There's not much really to diagnose and prescribe a solution here. It's just, I guess, to take away my view maybe on this. I guess this is what Brett's looking for. And it comes down to probably a few things, and I'll cover them bit by bit. I might go a little bit around the twist here and there in terms of coming back to certain points and reiterating things and feeling like I'm going around in circles. Hopefully not, though. But can a brand really be ethical and stand for something more than profit? Okay, look, let's go back to business. A business operates to offer goods or services to customers in return for profit. Revenue, all these things that need a business to operate and continue to grow and succeed and sustain business. So this comes down to, in most of the world, in terms of Western world especially, led this charge, this term capitalism. And this is what is up against, I think, a more moral, ethical standpoint of maybe where brand comes into it rather than sales and marketing potentially. There might be that divide as a result, where yes, by all means, you can have an ethical brand per se, let's say, but you can also be profitable. And there are brands that do this, but it depends, I guess, on the customer's viewpoint of what is ethical to them, what is a moral obligation to them, and what they believe the brand should be delivering on as a result of engaging with them. And this can be the bit of the grey area of, do brands need to be ethical and moral? Do they need to take the high ground? Do they need to influence change? Do they need to be the ones that drive, social understanding and change and do the right thing and all the rest of it? Whereas on the other hand, you've got this thing where you need to sell as much as you can to as many people as possible to be able to grow your business more and reach more people and do all the things that you might want to do, be it just to be a successful business or to be an ethical and moral brand, to sustain that, to be able to do more, to be able to give back more potentially. So it's this kind of, I don't know if it's a double-edged sword necessarily, because it's not exactly sharp on both sides, but it's one of those things where how you dance that line between the two comes into question of, is it really needed? Is it really needed to be both a profitable and an ethical, moral standing, purpose-driven or higher purpose-driven brand? Okay, so this is where in my mind, I think it's come at a good time, because this is something I'm always thinking about is, does a brand need to do this? Do I need to help my clients be more than just what it is they offer and sell and provide? The answer is no, they don't need to be more than that if they don't want to be. But if you do want to be, and you start a business, let's say, in those infancy periods of when you're setting out a business, you've got either a product or service in mind, or it might be entertainment as well. And you want to do this, but you want to be able to sustain it. So you need something in order for you to be able to do that. And typically it is money. It's probably not going to be exposure and just likes and shares and subscribes, unless you're a YouTuber and you get AdSense and you do brand deals and things like that. But there's still a monetary thing involved there so that you can sustain doing this. And then if you do want to grow and be able to do more of this, you need to be profitable and you need to charge more and do more and offer more and more and more and more. And that's commercialism in a sense. It's driving this high idea of capitalism to be able to go out into a market, sell your goods and services and get something in return and grow and grow and grow as a result. Some businesses do it exceptionally better than others. Some have been around long enough to be able to do it exceptionally better at this current moment. The big brands that we all know haven't just popped up overnight. They've been here for decades and have established themselves and grown and grown and grown with this capitalist business foundation. But when you do start, there might be something that also drives that desire to start this business where the purpose has been, yes, we want to create a service or a product that helps these kinds of people in these kinds of situations. But there might be a higher purpose that means that we also want to achieve this for society, for our culture, for our country, for our community, whatever it might be, to do more than just what it is you get out of bed every day to do, to sell and produce more of what it is you offer, be it your services or products. So you want to do more. An example of this might be something like Patagonia. It's always the go-to example for ethical and profitable businesses that can be the blueprint for that sustainability of that kind of model, but it's not going to work for everybody. And that's the hard line that you kind of need to understand, that it might not be for your business. But let's say with Patagonia, you want to give back a percentage of sales to be able to go back to conservation efforts or to community efforts, things like that. There are businesses, obviously, that are there to serve first and foremost, be it things like vets or hospitals, schools, where they still are businesses, but they are there non-for-profit generally. Hospitals maybe not so much anymore, but things that aren't necessarily there for profit, it's there to give back to members. There are some health funds that do this. There are some clubs and community services that do this, that are just there to serve their people. And that's admirable, absolutely. But the other part to it is that if they don't have the money there to sustain that operation, then they can't keep offering that. And that's where you see some of these businesses and services fall off the wagon and they don't hang around all that long. Let's say they're around reasonably long. They get investment from people that they donate or put capital in to help sustain these efforts, but it's not a long-term sustainable thing for a lot of these kinds of businesses. So if it is a business, you've got to kind of treat it like one and be profitable in a sense to keep growing and to be able to offer more services to more people, because there's probably going to be a limit on your capability if you don't grow. So if you can only sustain 10 clients, let's say you're a health professional in some regard, you're a community services, you can only really help 10 people in a day. But what if you could help another 10 people in another location so that you expand your business further to be able to help more people in another premises and have another person or another couple of staff be able to do that? So you need to have that little bit of profit to be able to open up another one of those. So this is where that kind of cat and mouse kind of game comes in of needing to run a sustainable business. But then that ethical part, if it can be something that isn't necessarily a crux of what the service and product is, it's something that you can give back at some certain stages, be it a certain percentage of profits. That can be a good one. If it's signing up to something like the B Corp, if you've seen that, B Corporation, where it is showing that you are a sustainable business, helping the environment by reducing energy use, recycling, all the rest of it in terms of any kind of packaging or whatever, or your online usage. your lights, you might use solar power in your office, things like that keep you more carbon neutral, let's say, as well. And then there's all other kind of practices with ethics that might not be towards the environment or to people. It might be more a case of internally, what you stand for. Okay, so an example of this is Dove. Dove, the beauty brand, the soap and moisturizers and all those things. Now, Dove do have this, I guess you could say, a higher purpose, and they're usually put on this pedestal for a purpose-led brand, in that they are trying to help shape a better, positive attitude and image of what women should feel like, look like, rather than being told this is how you should look, pencil thin, wearing, this and that, you should be a size 4 to 6 or whatever it is. Promoting a better positive body image through their products and through their messaging. And this is where you can, promote that in a way that aligns with the product that you have, but it's not, in a sense, affecting, I guess, your profitability to be able to grow. The more people align with what your kind of high purpose or mission or vision is for the world, that more people align with that, and that's how you might get your customers in. That's positive. The other side of that, though, is the what would be the word for it? The gaslighting or the greenwashing that can go on with business, where you are virtual signaling, being this doyen of environmentalist behavior, but you sell a gas guzzling car. And Mercedes was caught out in this kind of example a couple of years back, putting out some posters that showed the Mercedes circle symbol. I don't know what they call it, but their logo symbol being shown in organic forms, in leaves, in dirt, in rock formations, and highlighting that Mercedes is doing all it can to help the environment in whatever words they used. And that backfired for them because it was kind of greenwashing in a sense that at the end of the day, they're producing, mass producing, millions of cars a year, burning, producing millions of whatever amounts of carbon into the atmosphere, be it with their cars that are on the road or in the manufacturing process, needing the materials they need for the car, all the rest of it. And so you get to this point where you do want to be a business that does give back to the environment. You might offset your carbon. You might do as much as you can to offset the things that you do that aren't as positive into the world. But then you run the risk, I guess, of being called out for that. In Australia here, there is a Minerals Council of Australia, and they talk about doing the best for schools and hospitals and aged care and all these things that they give back to in possibly some small donations as a result of mining the hell out of this country for all the different iron ore, gas, gold, uranium, all the things that just are not fantastic. The process of doing it is not fantastic, but it's doing it to help all these other small businesses. And that is, to me and to many others, gaslighting. Like literally gaslighting with gas companies, obviously, but in terms of gaslighting, taking you for a ride to say that that's not really the big picture of what you're trying to do. You're trying to virtue signal what it is you're doing. So there's that, you want to sound like you are being ethical, but at the end of the day, your business practice doesn't live up to that expectation. Another thing can be as well, you have brands like Apple, which again are very much for humanity and creativity, the social sciences, all coming together into one nice happy family in their products. They've got, great ethical standards. They want to help the environment by doing solar power, to use less materials that can be recycled, or to use more materials that can be recycled, less materials that can't be. But they don't pay tax. Again, that raises another ethical part of, do you stand for more than something than profit? They've obviously got to be a profitable business to succeed and have the market valuation that they do to be able to do all the things they want to do around the world. And part of that is to minimize their tax. Is that really ethical when that tax could go to these communities, these schools, these hospitals, these roads, these houses, all the good things that tax can help for these big corporations like Apple and many others out there? I'm not trying to single out Apple, but this is the conundrum. This is the part of where brand can get sticky when it comes up against commercialism of a business. And I know these are very big businesses and they're very big examples, but this can play out in a very small context as well. You might have a real estate agency, and yes, you are there to help sell homes, help people find homes to live in, to rent in, to own, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're there to have the highest selling price of a house. And so that it, I guess, lines your pocket because you need to have your percentage on a house sale. And so you want the largest sale price. And that drives up prices and unaffordability and all the rest of it that comes with it. Does that need to be ethical? Probably not. You're there to run a business profitably. But if you go out into the community, let's say, and you run a very community-focused real estate business where you give back to the community in ways where you're supporting local sports teams, you're giving to local charities, things like that. I mean, any business can do that. That's great. And any small business can do that in their own way. But this is where I guess it comes back to the fact that a business is a business. The business has a prerogative to be sustainable, to generate revenue and be profitable. If it can't be, then it won't last long. And if it can't last long, it can't do the other things that you might want to do as the people that are part of that business. And this is where you need to separate, I guess, people from business, is that people want to help people. We all want to help people in some way, shape or form, some more than others, obviously. And this is where you can remove the people from the business, I think, and do something different where you are the person that is giving back. Sure, you might still be the head of a mining corporation, but if you start contributing personal, income, your own money, let's say, to charity in the millions and billions, maybe, then great. That removes it from the business where the business, it's there to operate to generate profit. It's a capitalist-oriented commercial business. Whereas for you, you're an individual and you want to give back to those that, are in need. So you do it, I guess, on your own dime. You do it collectively. For instance, I worked in a TV production company and we did a team of running this thing called the City to Surf in Sydney. We run from Sydney City, right in the centre of the city, all the way to Bondi Beach, which I'm sure many of you would know as the iconic beach of Australia. It's not the best beach in Australia by any stretch, but it's the most famous beach. And you run all the way there. It's like 14 Ks. It's up and down a big hill and down a hill and all the rest of it. You're up against hundreds and thousands of people. But a lot of people do it for charity. A lot of people raise funds for charity to give back. And as individuals running in this event, we raise money to give to a local charity. And I can't remember if it was ones that were helping kids with cancer. I'm pretty sure it was. And then I also did another run after that to help Beyond Blue Foundation here in Australia, based on my own efforts. It wasn't attached to the business I was working with. It was on my own time and effort and my own contribution as well, financially, as well as doing the run. But raising funds for Beyond Blue, which is a depression organisation here in Australia that help people through their mental, day-to-day for bipolar or day-to-day depression. And that's where you can put yourselves out there as individuals rather than as the business. So separate it maybe is the, I guess the not the prescription I would say, but depending on how you want to orient your business, if it is there at the end of the day to drive profit and revenue and grow and grow and grow, then do the ethical side of things where you can. And I could give you several other examples. If it's liquid death with using aluminium cans rather than plastic cans, there's still a manufacturing process involved. There's still a shipping process that, gets water onto a shelf when water can come out of your local tap if you're fortunate enough to have clean drinking water coming out of a tap. Those kind of things that it's like, yes, there's a great purpose to it. Getting a shift in change in manufacturing from plastic to aluminium, that's great. But there's still a problem in there of commercialism. To drive profit, to create something, to manufacture it. There's a cost involved. There's effects on the environment still as a result of it. It's less sure than plastic, but you're just coming in as another player in addition to the ones that are already out there, rather than reducing the ones that are out there and getting everyone to change. I know it's a grey issue. All of this stuff. It's a hard question to answer. It's a very subjective, I think, kind of question to answer. There is some objectivity in it, but I don't think there's ever going to be a black and white answer to say, can a brand really be ethical and profitable at the same time? Yes, there's examples of it, but it comes down to the subjectivity of whether or not you believe that's as ethical as it can be. So I don't think there's ever going to be just this, on a pedestal, number one best practice business, because I don't know if it's possible. So without going round and round in more circles on this, I think I've got a good understanding, or communicated a decent understanding of how I kind of see the difference between business ethics and brand higher purpose kind of ethics, I guess. And I hope that makes some sense in some way, shape or form, Brett. And for those of you listening, it's a tough question to answer. Again, I don't know if it could ever really be answered properly. But look, I do hope you found that interesting. It's a bit of a different kind of episode in terms of this. It wasn't even a diagnosis really, because it's just a guess, the forces of brand versus capitalism, and can they meld together? But look, I thank you again for your question, Brett. For those of you listening, I do hope that helps you too in some way, shape or form of how you shape your business. But please take a piece of brand candy, my free resource guide to do better branding that you can get on your way out at g'dayfrank.com/candy. You can also make an appointment via that link if you want to add a brand-related ailment into this surgery that I'd like to help you with. And I'll see you in the next episode in my next appointment. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. The surgery is now closed. The Dr. Branding podcast is hosted by Reagan Frank McCrill, that's me, and for legal reasons I want to be clear that I am not a registered or qualified doctor. The premise for this podcast is that it is a satirical analogy for branding consultancy to help others with their brand success. This podcast is also sponsored by my branding business, G'day Frank. Say g'day today by booking a call with me at g'dayfrank.com.